The eagle he was lord above, and Rob was lord below. The MacGregors claimed to be descended from Kenneth Mac Alpin, the first king of Scotland, a descent which is proclaimed in the motto S Rioho Modrem, translated as Royal is my race. In the 1500s, the MacGregors had fought the Campbells for decades and were eventually dispossessed of their lands. Reduced to the status of outlaws, they rustled cattle and poached deer to survive. They became so proficient at these endeavours, other clans would pay them not to steal their cattle, as they exhausted other means of stopping them. In 1560, the Campbells dispossessed Gregor, Roy MacGregor, who waged war against the Campbells for 10 years before being captured and killed. His son Alistair claimed the MacGregor chiefship, but was utterly unable to stem the tide of persecution which was to be the fate of the Children of the Mist. The neighbours of the MacGregors were the Earls of Argyll and Breadalbane. Their influence at court was very great, and they easily obtained grants of the lands of the MacGregors. They proceeded bit by bit to take possession. The clansmen vehemently resisted. This was represented at court as resistance to law, and so the whole force of the executive was turned to crush them. Quote, "Wicked clan MacGregor, so long continuing in blood, slaughter, theft and robbery," unquote. That commission should be granted to their foes, quote, "to pursue them with fire and sword," unquote. Whilst the lieges were discharged from receiving or assisting them or affording them under any colour whatever, meat, drink or clothes. And now began a sort of savage civil war in which the law was cruelly outraged and then brutally avenged. The King's Forester was murdered after hanging MacGregors for poaching. The chief of Clan Gregor, Alistair of Glenstray, was condemned by the Privy Council. In April 1603, King James VI issued an edict proclaiming the name of MacGregor altogether abolished, meaning that those who bore the name must renounce it or suffer death. In January 1604, Clan Gregor was scattered, many taking other names such as Murray, King or Grant. They were hunted like animals, flushed out of the heather by bloodhounds. An act of the Scottish Parliament from 1617 stated, "It was ordained that the name of MacGregor should be abolished, and that the whole persons of that name should renounce their name and take some other name, and that they nor none of their name, and that they nor none of their posterity should call themselves Gregor or MacGregor under pain of death. That any person or persons of the said clan who has already renounced their names or hereafter shall renounce their names, or if any of their children or posterity shall at any time hereafter assume or take to themselves the name of Gregor or MacGregor, that every such person or persons assuming or taking to themselves the said name shall incur the pain of death, which pain shall be executed upon them without favour." The ban was revoked in 1661 by King Charles II, but restored during the reign of William and Mary. It was finally repealed in 1774. However, it was not until 1822 that the family obtained royal license to use the family surname again. Roy MacGregor, born in 1671, called Robert Ruard or Red Robert, took the name of his mother Campbell. He owned a farm at Balquhidder and operated as a cattle dealer, but he and his people survived in the hills of the Southern Highlands mainly by blackmail and by plundering the farmlands of their rich neighbours. His daring exploits as a bandit who outwitted and ridiculed his many foes became a legend in his lifetime. William Wordsworth wrote about him, as did Sir Walter Scott. He was arrested more than once and made many daring escapes. The Battle of Sheriffmuir in 1715 saw Rob with mixed allegiances as the Duke of Argyll took the government side against the Jacobites, and he was forced to miss the battle. Even so, he became a marked man with high treason charges over his head and spent the next 10 years a hunted man. Although he was involved in various skirmishes like the one in Glenshield in 1719, he managed to escape capture on various occasions until in 1725 he was captured by General Wade and imprisoned in the famous Newgate prison in London. Rob was sentenced to transportation to Barbados, but before he was due to be deported he received a pardon from King George I and returned home to his family in 1727. It is not at all to be supposed that Rob Roy was a mere vulgar robber. He was kind and generous to the poor, and believed himself to be justified in the revenge which he took on the rich. Then, though brave himself and daring, he was by no means of a cruel or sanguinary disposition, nor was he without a certain grace and dignity of manner which impressed those who came in contact with him. Personally, he is described as being very strong, with very broad shoulders and very long arms. In 1734, Rob Roy unsuccessfully disputed land with his neighbour John McLaren of Invernenty. Rob Roy lost the clan duel that followed and died of his wounds on the 28th of December 1734. There is some dispute as to where Rob Roy's remains are buried. Some say he may be interred on the island of Inniscallion on Loch Lomond or in Glengyle on Loch Katrine.